All right. What's going on, my high vibrational expressions of God on earth? Let's get this party started. Today we're doing an intro for the next advanced class. We have two advanced classes, and the way that I've kind of restructured everything in order to be able to maximize or take advantage of what you guys would like to hear or not like to hear. So based upon the response, that lets me know if this is something that is a topic that is of value and is of interest. Hello, muchachos and muchachas. What's going on, my high vibrational expressions of God on earth? Let's get this party started. Today we want to break down, reveal, explain, illuminate, and simplify the intro to a new series, a pay-per-view series that will be popping off. And again, it's very important that the reason why we're doing it, restructuring it, is so that way it lets me know if there's something that you guys are interested in. And so what we're talking about is the 9 levels of consciousness, or the 9 levels of awareness, from the perspective of understanding that everybody, we have this ability to tap into what we call the spirit realm. And the spirit realm is a realm where the counsel of God meets. So we can be a part of this counsel, if you will. We can allow ourselves to be able to connect with God by becoming a part of the Godhead or the God counsel, by becoming one with Source. And it's very important that we understand that as individual expressions of God on earth, we have this ability or this access, for lack of a better term, to the counsel of God. So this is how to permanently walk in your divine counsel, how to permanently walk in your divine consciousness, how to permanently walk in the cosmic counsel of light. We have the potential to be members of this cosmic counsel. As members of this cosmic counsel of light, it's extremely important that we understand that, okay, if we are members of this cosmic counsel of light, and we are, what does that mean? How does that affect us? How does it help us, if you will, that term, and how does it hinder us? Because it talks about, and this is very important from a biblical perspective, because most of us believe in monotheism. We believe that there's only one God, but we all have access to the same Godhead or the God frequency. And so as members of the cosmic counsel of light, there's 9 different ways to access and become a part of this cosmic counsel of light. So we're all made up of light. We're all light beings, but we also have fire and we have clay. So the way that the cosmic counsel of light has restructured, for lack of a better term, how each and every one of us are a part of this super God head or this super God mind, for lack of a better term, it allows us to tap into the cosmic counsel of light. And to the degree that we're able to understand that, that's how we proceed. And this cosmic counsel of light, which each and every one of us, we all have let's use the word membership, for lack of a better term. And again, today we're just kind of introducing the topic. And again, this is one of the advanced classes. And so this is also a part of there's about, for all of the basic classes, we also are doing this advanced class. And again, it's designed to connect people with the higher realms, if you want that term. And one of the words I like to use, that they use, which is called Metatron. Now, it has a lot of different meanings depending on who you talk to, but at the end of the day, we're all part of this hive mind. We're all part of this one frequency, this one wave, this one vibration. All it does, it allows you to be able to operate and vibrate in a frequency that allows you to connect with Source. So what the benefit or the takeaway is, for each and every person that's able to, take advantage of the class, it allows you to tap into this singularity and this oneness, this unity that allows you to go through the lower levels, which is the first 3. So as we talk about this term that we call Trinity. So there's 3 levels, but those 3 have 3. So we got 3 and 3, or 3 times 3. That's where we get the 9 from. So this 9 mind or 9 ether, and we see that and we hear that a lot if you want to use that term, when you're talking to or tapping into people that are quote unquote conscious. That's all they're talking about. And it's interesting because when we talk about consciousness, we use all of these buzzwords and we throw these terms around, and that's, you know, that's good. But a lot of times people they just get confused. People get lost because all of the new age buzzwords that are used to create separation instead of bringing about inclusion, because it makes people feel less than, because you don't feel that you are knowledgeable, because the terms or the words that people are using you may not be familiar with. And so, as we've been talking about, and as we will continue talking about later on tonight, as we continue going through book 5, you notice that in all areas of life, there's levels to this game, or levels of awareness, and it's like peeling back an onion. And as we talk about all the time, it's not that any one person is more right and one person is more wrong. It's just that everybody comes to different levels of awareness at different times. And so everybody's at a different level of awareness. Doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's good. It just simply means that it's a different perspective. And as your perspective expands, you find yourself in a different council. You find yourself in a different demographics, if you will. You find yourself in a different reality or a different group. And that is the biggest takeaway when we talk about the ascension, what some people call ascension process. You don't really go to different levels. You don't go to different places and all of the stuff that we've been taught. Everything exists in this one realm. And this realm is the place because of frequencies. Example, just like the electrical magnetic spectrum. When you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, how can all of these different frequencies exist, but you don't see it, you don't touch it, you don't feel it, you don't taste it? But yet, for example, cats can see or pick up things, dogs can hear things that we can't. And so, based upon the electrical magnetic spectrum, it talks about how each and every one of us have different access to different levels of awareness. And so, what makes one person more aware than another person? That's all we're talking about. We're talking about the different types of awareness that allows one person to be and to notice something that somebody else doesn't notice. It's just like, when I was a cop, there are some people that they get promoted to become a detective. So what makes a person a good detective? Well, one of the things that makes a person a good detective over somebody else is their ability to notice. And so what we're talking about is noticing. Some people have a gift of noticing things that other people do not. And so what we're talking about is how do you increase, how do you enhance that gift, or some would call curse, of noticing. Because what if there are some people that are born with that gift, which is also a curse. Those people are sevens. Sevens have the ability to notice. They're very analytical. But unfortunately, most people, a lot of people, they don't like to be analyzed. People don't like when you see through the smoke and mirrors and you see their true core essence, their true self. We all like to hide, if you will, behind an illusion. We all wear masks. So what this does is it allows you to disrobe. In the series, when we continue the show tonight, we're going to talk about this vesture of light that Adam and Eve lost, that we lost during the fall. And so one of the things that's inside of the inscription on Mount, which means high vibration, Hermes or Herman, which talks about, again, disposition, a high mental disposition. That's another way of talking about perception. It's another way of talking about awareness. So what we're talking about what we will be talking about, I should say, is the three aspects of the three. So this is our Trinity. It's the same way if you look at the way by which the pyramid, which we'll be breaking down in the current series that we're going through, that's called the palace of peace, and reconciliation. So it's called the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation, but it's made out of triangles because the triangles have 3 points of connection or connectivity or 3 points of light. So when we talk about these 3 points of light, we're still talking about the same exact thing when it comes to consciousness and awareness. And that is your ability to connect with the 3 points of light in what is called, again, a unconscious, then we got a subconscious, and then we got a conscious. Then we go to the soul realm. So we got the spirit realm, and that has 3 points of light or connectivity. Then we talk about the soul realm that has also 3 points of light and connectivity. And then we also have the Then we also have the so we got the spirit, we got the soul, and then we have the body. And so each one of those contain 3. So these 3 aspects is how we connect with the higher realms of awareness and consciousness, and we disconnect from the lower realms, which is the Bible calls the flesh. So it tells us that if we walk in the spirit, we will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So it's all about understanding, okay, this ability for us to tap into or walk in the spirit is what this is about. So the spirit realm contains technically these 9 levels of awareness. So there's 9 points of connectivity in this thing that you and I call spirit. The reason why this is so important is when we're talking about the ability to relate to other people, to the level of your points of connectivity. If you have more points of connectivity, you have a better relationship. When those points of connectivity, those points that you are able to notice why a person does what he or she does, so you can look past what is a stumbling block or a flaw for everybody else. Same thing when it comes to money. This is, in this series, this is why it's part of the advanced class. And again, based upon response, that determines whether or not, just like with the sovereignty class, same thing. And the reason why this information is so paramount, because each level, whether we're talking about the unconscious level, the subconscious level, or the conscious level, this reality that we live in is made up of 9 realms. Now, some people say 12. Some people say, less or more. The numerical value really is not as important as the biblical or the spiritual vestures of life. So Adam and Eve was clothed with something called a biophoton, or I call it a biophonon. So it's phonon and photon. But it is false in the Greek, P-H-O-S, which is where we get the English word phosphorus. So what we're literally talking about is how do we turn the light on? Or how do we re-robe? Since our robe, our vesture, our light, our connectivity, our fire, so we are fire, we are light, and we're clay. And so the fire and the light got, let's say, turned off, disconnected. So all we're doing is reconnecting the fire and the light aspects of your nature. It's already there, it's just dormant. Biologically speaking, it's called a C-O-D-O-N, a codon. From a biological perspective, you are using a third of your power, of your ability. Just like we're talking about later on tonight when we break down Mount Hermon, the inscription on Mount Hermon, which proves. So when he fell, he drew a third of the angels. Angels are angels. Angels are Enochim. So, and I talk about this in all of our books. So all I'm doing is further breaking down and explaining the things that we've been talking about for the last 30 years. But now, since the amount of noise the amount of programming, the amount of attacks on your attention has increased. If you notice, you have less time, you have less money, you have less focus, you have less discipline, you have less order. Right now, there is an attack on your mentals, which is your metals, because iron and clay does not mix. So the gods of this world, the antichrist, which is metal, like in the Matrix, Terminator, the machines are fighting against man, the true man, clay, that's God's creation, but that's another man. But this man, this other man, is a different kind. It's not a part of the Adam U, the original. But nobody can tell because they have commingled themselves. So the only way to tell now is through consciousness, through discernment, through awareness, because everybody looks the same. So if you bump into an OP, if you bump into an organic portal, if you bump into a disembodied spirit, how would you know? How would you tell? It would be impossible to tell. And it's not impossible to tell, it's just more difficult. So what do I mean by more difficult? Well, if you've encountered, it's like when they talk about, it's called the Livingston psychology. There was a doctor named Livingston who came up with this whole psycho theory. And he talks about the people or the occupations and the industries that draw OPs. Like flies are drawn to shiznits and bees are drawn to honey. So usually all organic portals collect in one specific occupation. 90%, I think, based upon the study, of people in this occupation are disembodied spirits. They don't have a soul. They don't have the 9 points of connectivity. They may have 3. They don't have all 9. A lot of us don't. The goal is, if you don't have the points of light, if you haven't plugged in to source, you want to plug back in. So source is giving all of us an opportunity to plug back in. The one occupation is why I couldn't get into it either. It's not only secret societies, but it's also like the Navy SEALs. The one organization is all of the organizations that's inside of the military. Number 2 is law enforcement. If you want to find a psychopath or a sociopath or an organic portal, they are drawn. Now, the psychology behind why all of the special forces, the only way you can be a member of a special forces is if you have the ability to do like Beyonce or Serena Williams or Michael Jordan. So the next level would be elite athletes, because they have ability to departmentalize. They can go another level, another place where most people can't. When you get tired and you get ran over, you just like, you quit. You stop. You go home. These people don't. I know, because I used to be one of them. But I just didn't have that level. I still had some residue, if you want to use that term, of a soul. And so what we're talking about now is there's a separation. That's why you're going through whatever you're going through, because you're going through the same test that I'm going through to see if you're going to tap into that lower nature that was given to you by the fallen. Because there's 2 ways to skin a cat, if you will. The flesh wars against the spirit wars against the flesh. These 2 are contrary to one another. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that, okay, if I'm a spirit and I have possession of a soul, so that way I can manifest through the body. So now the only question is, what type of spirit do I have? So there are different kinds of spirits. So this class, we're going delving into the type of spirit that you got. And then how can you tell the type of spirit that you're married to? The type of spirit that your children have. The type of spirit. So these spirits, again, the whole point of the manipulation of the biological dirt suit by the fallen, and we're going to break that down a little further later on tonight as we go further down the rabbit trail of pulling back the layers of the rulers of this world. The rulers of this world wanted to figure out a way by which, since they made this pact and this oath and this agreement, how do they prolong this, let's use the word kingdom, that's made out of the lower aspects of consciousness, which is flesh, material. So I'm in the material realm. Now remember, as we talked about in the private message, the people who are part of the council have to play the game the same way the game was created by the game designer. If you want to use the term, this is the game. To make the game fair. Meaning, God could rewrite another game, if you want to use that term, but God chose to use the foolishness of the game. The foolishness of this game is called symbols. It's called math, music, and language. We call it preaching. So Source says, okay, I'm going to play the game according to. Now, another level of the game is over the understanding that Source created this whole game to see if his own nature could return back to his own nature. That's where me and you come in. So there is this vampiric, etheric force. And it's vampire. It's a vampire. If you notice every movie, it's all eventually it comes down about a energy extraction matrix harvest or a blood, because the life of the flesh is in the blood. So it's going to be a blood oath. There's going to be a blood orgy. There's going to be some type of blood spillage through a sacrifice. Go to the Old Testament. What do they do? Well, something happened and I need to bring about some kind of a redemption plan. Why blood, though? How come God just didn't kill the devil instead of killing his own son? I have a choice. If I want to redeem a bunch of people, I'm just going to, okay, the bad guy is the bad guy. He chose to be the bad guy. So I'm not going to send my son. I'm going to just kill the bad guy. But that's just me. But what's the point? The point is for you to make you think outside of the box. Because that's how you that's how a detective, when I get to the crime scene, I don't think like a cop. I think like a criminal. And I ask myself, if I'm the bad guy, what would I do? The ability, remember, what is truth? According to the Bible. According to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 8, 9, and 10. Verse 8, 9. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, 9, and 10. Well, God himself will send you a strong delusion. So the delusion means that you're separated from what we're talking about, which is these 9 points that you got to plug in. You got to plug in on 9 levels to zing, turn on, reactivate, or put on your vesture, put on your light body. So we all have different bodies. Jesus, when he died and rose, he said, touch me not, for I have not ascended to your Father and your Father. He said, hey, I got new clothes on, dog. Don't get me dirty. So he had a light body. So he had a glorified body. The Bible says we're going to have a glorified body too. So how do we glorify the body? The word glorify means glow, ray. So there's a ray that makes you glow. There's a certain way of thinking that zing, that's a high vibrational way of thinking. So the fallen angels, they fell on, out of every place they could have fallen, they fell at a specific location, which we're going to break it down. The word mount and the word Hermon, what it means. What we broke down, remember, it means Armon, A-R-M-O-N, which means A-M-M-O-N. So what part of your brain is A-M-M-O-N? Well, we're going to break that down tonight. So in this advanced class, we're going now, okay, this is why you can't walk in the Spirit. This is why people get divorced. This is why you get fired from your job. All my problems was because I didn't understand this. That's why I wrote the book. So I wrote a book, okay, how do you walk in the Spirit? It tells you to walk in the Spirit. What is dimensions? Because dimensions were like like physically going to a different place. I didn't know that there was no such thing as a physical location change. See, I was changing mates. I was changing cars. I was changing houses. I was changing the 3D. I didn't know that I had to go to 6 and then eventually 9 chi. And I didn't know that this was consciousness. This was a vibration. I didn't know that everything vibrated at different rates. I didn't know that you have to access higher dimensions by opening up a wider perspective. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the people who have the ability to open up a wider perspective, those people make all the money. So a wider perspective means that you can see an alternative way other than fighting. So instead of fun, fighting, and effing, that's all we do. Every day, just wake up fun, no fun, let's start a fight, no fight, let's go make babies. Instead of that's it. That's the only option you got. You go to the hood right now, Negroes are doing it. They do not have a level of consciousness that can see there's something else we can do, man. There's something else. That's why, like, even with what I've been doing. And I was talking with a high-level Caucasian earlier, and he's like, man, and and it was a legitimate question. He's like, yeah, I noticed your people. And I almost went in when he said, what the fuck you mean by your people? And he's a banker. And he was explaining to me like, man, yeah, your people. And I get it. Because what he's saying is black people. We don't have a level of consciousness that's like white people. Now, we as black people, we all know why we don't have a level of consciousness. I don't know no black person that was raised in an entrepreneurial environment where you woke up every morning, you sat at the breakfast table, and you read the Wall Street Journal with your mom and daddy and picked out stocks. And instead of them giving you money for lunch and for school, they gave you money to invest in stocks. And they taught you the stock market, or they taught you the real estate market, or they taught you, real estate market. I don't know, and I know a lot of kids that was raised like that. So that's consciousness. That's showing you, hey, there's another option instead of working with your back. Instead of working for somebody else, how about you have somebody work with or for you? That's an option. I didn't know that. I said I didn't know teaching was an option for a black man. I did not see a black male teacher until I got to 8th grade. I was like, black men can teach? Have you ever seen a black man teaching in the elementary school? I haven't seen it. When I was a kid, that's the first thing I look for. And I see a lot of women, but I don't see no black men, not in elementary school. So that's a reason. It ain't good, it ain't bad, it's just, that's awareness. There are 9 levels of consciousness, brothers and sisters. And to the degree that you are able to see the value in expanding your because right now is like, this is the testing grounds. Everybody's right now, you're in the middle of the test. Whether you pass this test or not is up to you being able to tap into an expanded level of awareness and consciousness by not buying the current narrative. Why are they even selling this narrative? Because they don't want you to be a member of the Cosmic Council. How come they don't want you to be a member of the Cosmic Council? This Cosmic Council operates in technology and knowledge that gives them power. And if you look at everything that happens in history, the people who rise to the top, the people who fall to the bottom, they're all manipulated. But the way that they're manipulated primarily is through what we call language or language, which again is not necessarily the language, the ability to comprehend the language and the ability to communicate whatever it is you're trying to communicate. So if you think about leadership, you think about different organizations, you think about people who are able, the Bible talks about that God sits on the council. Now, it's very interesting when I read Psalms 82, verse 1. And the first time I remember when I was a young preacher and I was asking, the reverends, doctors, and bishops, so like Psalms 82, 1, really 1 through 8. And it says, God calls the judges into his courtroom. This is the New Living Translation. He calls all the judges. Now, we'll call judges. He puts all the judges on the seat. Now, in the New Living Translation, God calls all the judges into the courtroom, and he puts all the judges into their seats. Now, the King James says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judges amongst the gods. So, who are these other gods that's judging with God? I was told God judged, and only God. Even Jesus said, I'm the firstborn of many brethren. The fact that you don't consider yourself a part of the judges. You know that God says you're a royal priest, you're a holy nation, you're a joint heir. I mean, that's all this shit's in your Bible. I'm not making this up. You can look it up. We can all read it for ourselves. But we don't have that consciousness. We don't have that awareness. And it's not our fault. It's just like we have not been exposed. So there's not enough of an exposure, so we shrink back to what's familiar. So what's familiar to you? What's familiar to me is different. So what do I do every day? What I do is I expose myself to new information. What I do every day is I challenge. I don't try to find things that validate me. I find things that challenge me. I want to read things that say, Jesus is the only way. I want to read things that prove there's a physical hell that physical people are thrown into. I can't find it, but I'm still looking. So I want to validate your belief system, not mine. I already got mine. But there's other people who believe other things, and I find it very interesting that you would believe like talking to an inmate. Or it's like somebody who's having marital problems. If you talk to somebody who has marital problems, I find it very interesting. Because me and my wife, we have a lot of things that we disagree on. Now, I don't find it a problem. Now, I used to find it a problem. So what changed? What the problems that exist yesterday, they don't exist today. Like the problems in the area of finances. So if you got to read, like in business, the things that used to get attention, they don't get attention anymore. So what does that mean for me? Well, for me, I could just post this. I could do this class right now. I could post it on Facebook, and that was it. That's all I had to do. And 30 people would sign up. But that doesn't work no more. Because number one, Facebook doesn't share. Now, they don't tell you this, but, they call it like throttling. Same thing they do with your, like your internet. Your internet goes down to peak time and peak usage. So if you're sharing a message that doesn't fit, even PayPal came out with, they got new user rules where they could actually, they said that they rescinded it, but I never got anything that said that. You could get fined. If you go against the dominant culture's narrative, they just go into your PayPal account and take your money. Now, and it's very interesting. That's why all of these user agreements you got to read. You guys saw that thing that was on Walt Disney. There was an accidental death. They sued Walt Disney. Walt Disney says, well, you had a member, you had Disney Plus or Disney Channel or something. In that user agreement, it says you can't sue Disney. Now, the guy was like, I never read that. And what does that have to do with my wife eating at your restaurant? And the food you gave her made her, pass away. With Disney saying, well, yeah, that could have happened, but We're not liable because you signed the user agreement that states there's any problems with Disney, you're not going to seek outside counsel. We're going to go through arbitration. So they're saying that's illegal and binding. But it had nothing to do with that. This was just watching a movie channel. But the lawyers are using language to tie that in and tie it up in court. To do what? To make sure that they use legalese to prevent you from receiving your due diligence or what is due to you based upon what you consider right and wrong. Because everybody's definition of right and wrong is different. Same thing happens in the spirit realm. Same thing happens in relationships. If you go into a relationship, something that you do could be perceived as disrespectful. But somebody else in a relationship doesn't see it. Like stuff that me and my wife go through, you would feel like, nah, man, I can't do that. But there's a reason why you can't do that. Because that makes you feel. Okay? How can it make you feel when it doesn't make me feel? How come I got into law enforcement and I got out after 2 years? How come my brother's been in law enforcement for 30 years? And he's been kicked out, fired, and sued 3 times. Each time he fought, got lawyers, went to trial to fight to get his ability to carry a gun and a badge. So what does carrying a gun and a badge do for him that didn't do for me? Gives him an identity. Well, how come I don't need that identity and he does? What about you? What about your identity? How do you get your identity? What makes you feel validated? Do you need the constant, like in my first marriage, in the beginning of this marriage, I needed constant approval and validation from my wife. And if I didn't get it, I sought that constant approval from people outside of my marriage. Because men need that attaboy, especially from our mates. We love to hear, good job, honey. We take out the trash, we want to hear, like, if I do the dishes and the wife come home and she'll say that, I say, hey, babe, I did the dishes. She said, oh, you did? Oh, okay, great job. Okay, I feel good. If I do the dishes and she come home and she don't notice that I did the dishes, then what happens? I feel bad. And I'm talking to used to. Now, yeah. But I had to learn. What did I have to learn? I had to learn that I could not depend. Because maybe my wife is going through something at the same time and she ain't not saying that, hey, honey, thanks for doing the dishes, because she's not grateful. She just got a lot of other things on her mind. And she does notice it, but maybe she's going through something that needs me to validate her. That comes from something called growth. That's awareness. That's perception. That's consciousness. That's God. God is the ability to do what the Bible talks about in 2 Thessalonians. We call it empathy and sympathy. The ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. But how do you do that when you need somebody to do the same thing for you? So this series and this book and everything that we're going to be talking about now, it goes a whole lot. We're going to get into a whole lot deeper stuff. But the most important takeaway, the thing that you use to what I call pay your light bill with, is the ability to understand what it talks about in Psalms 82, verses 1 through 8. Because when you get down to verse 6, where it says, all of the foundations of earth are out of course. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are. So it tells us that our God is talking. If you want to do that term, all of us, all the foundations of the earth are out of course. I have said you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. So why would somebody not say that they're God, and why would they say they're not a child of God if the Bible says you are? Another study for another time. But you shall die like men, and you shall fall like one of the princes over the power of the air. That's me adding some information in, but it just says princes. Psalms 82:7. and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge not. Arise, O God. He's talking about you. He's telling you, arise, and he's calling you God. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. So, clay, we were granted and given authority over clay. Fire was granted and given authority over fire. Light was granted and given authority over light. So there's different kinds and different types. Those are the levels of consciousness and awareness. Now, mastery means God consciousness, to be a part of the council of God. You've mastered the creations of God. Clay, fire, and light. So this series, this advanced class, is about mastery over clay, mastery over fire, mastery over light. Now, there's a lot of people who are teaching mastery over one of those areas. You got secret societies, they just focusing on, cosmology. You got people focusing on, we call them preachers, theology. You got people focusing on, we call them biologists, biology. How many Negroes, non-Negroes, that understand all three areas? Now, are you supposed to? Well, that's another thing for another time. Maybe, maybe not. But all I know is, if you want to be a good detective, if you want to operate in the highest realm, you got to master energy, frequency, and vibration. Clay, fire, and light. That three-stranded cord, that's the Trinity. But Kester said, if you know the secrets of generating, operating, and directing, of 369, of clay, fire, and light. The reason why this is one of the advanced classes at $1,000 or 2 payments of $500 is because it's very interesting, brothers and sisters. I was telling the wife this morning, man, miracles happen every day. I just don't know if you see them. If you breathe in, that's a miracle. If you woke up this morning and you have the activities in your limbs, you can walk, you're not sipping soup out of a straw, you're not slurring your speech, you can see, whether it might not be 20/20, but you can still see, you have vision, you can hear me talking to you. The fact that your body's functioning, you can walk up a flight of stairs, that's all, those are miracles. You should be so thankful and grateful. Just on the clay level. Then we get to the fire level and the light level. But to be able to give thanks is difficult, or it's a lot easier to give thanks when you have comprehension. When you understand how each cell in your body works, if you just understood how complicated your eyeball is, the fact that you are able to see through your eyes and your brain is able to interpret the frequency and turn it into an image. If you understood the complexity of the human eye, you'd be thankful. If you just understood the complexity of the brain, how many neurons are firing together, wiring together. So the more you comprehend, the more you notice, the more you understand, the more you tap into biology, theology, and cosmology. If you understand how the sun and the moon works, if you understand the stars and the heaven and how all this stuff works and tie in, if you just understand all of the information and then the basic information. But when you tap into all the information that's been lost, all the stuff that I read, all of the hidden esoteric stuff, I don't read stuff that you can find in the library or you can pretty much find on the internet. Most of the stuff I read and share with you guys is esoteric stuff that's so hard to find. It takes, months and months and digging and researching and finding. And then when you do find it, you realize that word's been changed and that's not really the original one. Sometimes you got to contact family members and find out, or contact the author and say, so what do you mean? What was the original? Well, that's not somebody that's like my stuff. I can find my books on the internet being sold right now by somebody else that I don't even know. Just some of my books, one of my books is on the internet. It's on out there, and people are buying it, which is wild. It's one of my $19 books. Somebody got it selling for $900, and people are buying it at $900, and it's on my website for $19. But they say there's a sucker born every day. It's just amazing the amount of misinformation that's available online today. So all I'm doing is I'm challenging everybody, even not only what I say, but with anybody. No matter what somebody says, when you read something online, remember, we know what to think, but we don't know how to think. And remember, your brain seeks the path of least resistance. Remember, the brain is going to provide you with the proof that justifies the lowest version of you. The part of you that the brain says, man, we got to keep this dude safe. We don't want to keep him wealthy, healthy, wise. We want you to feel safe, not rich, not healthy, no. So you got to override the desire for comfort. You must seek clarity over comfort. It's almost impossible because remember, you have a default. You just automatically resort back to, it's like when you change the channel and you take your consciousness off it, it just flips back. So until you set conscious intent, you got to consciously choose wealth every single day. It must be a conscious act. If you don't, your brain will automatically reset back to the old habit pattern, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So you got to make a conscious effort until that becomes your new normal. And everybody's different because everybody has a different negative habit pattern to override. Last but not least, a part of this is tapping into what I mentioned yesterday when I was talking about looking at mortality and immortality. And that's very interesting with the new alpha particle that they've discovered over down in Silicon Valley that I mentioned yesterday during the pay-per-view class when we was talking about chapter 3, which is the decay-less state. That means that the dominant culture has figured out that we're not supposed to decay. We're not supposed to die. So they are using what they call cryogenics to freeze their heads. When somebody died, they chop their head off and they freeze it. So when the technology's discovered, when them good old boys have figured out that, the telomeres is the only reason that we die, we just got to figure out how to stop the telomere from unraveling. And as I talked about in the private message, what they found out was shocking. The fastest way to keep your telomere is when you are in a state of what we call happiness. When you remove stress and fear, the telomeres don't unravel so fast. And then we add in all the stuff that's common sense, like food and air and blah blah blah. But the biggest reason that you and I die is because we believe we're supposed to die, and we stress because we don't have the tools to override the current habit pattern. As I talked about during the private message, consciousness, this series continues where the rulers of this world series leave off. Because what I'm talking about in this series is the 9 levels of consciousness is how you walk in the spirit. And if you walk in the spirit, you cannot fulfill the lust of the flesh. That's what the Bible says. So now the only question is, how do I walk in the spirit? That's activating what they call the alpha particle, which is what I call the gamma, which is grammar. So that means that I need to walk in a grammar. Who controls your grammar? Who controls you? So we know that the Bible says that we are all knowing, all power, all present, all simple, and all love, because we are God on earth. We are particles. We are individual expressions of God on earth. So what Silicon Valley is doing is they like, okay, immortality on a biological level. The genes, the cells, everything renews itself. The most powerful weapon to bring about death and decay is fear. Fear keeps you in a constant state where the stress speeds up your decay. And so if you consciously, intellectually, intentionally, voluntarily cooperate with Source, you activate the longevity of what we call self. But the problem is, it has to be conscious. So if I'm the bad guy, what do you think I'm going to do? I got to make sure that you stay unconscious. But what does that mean, stay unconscious? That means that I have to make sure that you are not using your intention. When you woke up this morning, did you consciously sit down, take a deep breath, nostril breathing preferably, and say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Or, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. All who rise up against me shall fall. Or, what I like the best, all things work together for my good. I have been young, now I am old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor a seed begging bread. I consciously set my intent. When money flows to me easily and effortlessly from all directions, all organs in my body functions according to its purpose. And we'll keep going. But if I'm consciously selecting what particle that I want to participate in. So I'm only going to quantum entangle with those specific particles. That's my vibration equivalent. I ain't got to fight nobody. I ain't got to resist nobody. I don't have to con nobody. I'll just set my intent. And you know what happens? Regardless of what the wife is going through, or brothers and sisters, or kids, or no matter what, nobody contacts me, calls me. I experience no BS. Life is smooth because they're not on my level. I'm on the level of singularity with Source. So I only come in contact with people who are on that same level. If you rule your mind will keep you in line. Rule your mind or it will rule you. Now by rule, that simply means consciously know your power. The power of your words and the power of your silence. So I don't interact with nor engage with people, places, and things that are choosing to engage with me on a lower level of consciousness. I can do that on my own. I need no assistance to do cray-cray. None. Like I'm a professional. Since I know I don't need no assistance, so I don't engage with people who are experts in cray-cray. I got a lot of friends and family members that are professional drama causers, if for lack of a better term. They know me and I know them. We choose not to partake. So this is a series, again, well, I'll be doing it upon the completion of the current series. And also depending upon level, again, because of the cost, and I know that's something to consider as well. So if I get a lot of people interested in it, and by a lot, I just mean, 2 or 3. If I get 100 people, that's even better. But if there's no interest, then the basic classes we're always doing, those are like $20 for each night or $100 for the class. So tonight we'll continue with the basic class. We're just about done. We got 1 or 2 more shows, and then we'll start the advanced class. Then we have the next basic class where I'm thinking we're going to jump into the what I call the four corners. You guys remember we was talking about that, which some people call standing on your square. It got a lot of, esoteric meanings when we talk about standing on your square or your four corners, but we're not coming at it from that perspective. As you guys know, which I'm not a part of any secret society and blah, blah, blah. So none of the stuff I talk to, although the terminology like ascension and salvation and those words are similar, but my definition and my meaning is always different. So you got to make sure that you always ask, oh, well, Doc, you said this. So what's your definition? Because I guarantee you 99.999% of the time, my definitions is totally different from theirs because, again, I'm coming at it from singularity, source, God, oneness, which is love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness, and self-control. Against such things, there is no law. So why would any of us choose to operate in it? Not sure. Let's not get it twisted. I'm not saying that, oh, yeah, you got to be perfect. Nope. I get hit. You get hit. We all get hit. Like I was just telling you guys last night or night before last. Hey, I got hit again. Something with one of the kids. Something happened. Like was one of those. Oh, are you serious? Like you did what or what happened? After you got with my daughter in Dallas when she called with the second youngest. Her name's Santana. She sent me a video of her while she was having a seizure. Now at the time she sent me the video. And was like, Dad, I don't know. She didn't give me the backstory. So I said, told her, hey, cool her down, cold water. Hey, don't call the ambulance. They're going to poke her with a bunch of stuff, get in the car and drive her. Because she was breathing, but she was convulsing very badly. So immediately, because of Shimura, brain goes to worst case scenario. So stay calm. Well, we'll get to the backstory. She's teething and she's been, having a fever of 103. So it's more fever off. But what if I'd have panicked and did all this stuff? I just make things worse. That's why it's so important, brothers and sisters, that no matter what goes on in your life, make sure that you maintain a sense of calm. Cool, calm, and collected. Singularity, oneness. Remember that old saying back in the day, what would Jesus do? Same thing. Think like, act like. Because according to Psalms 82, 1 through 8, you are the vibrational equivalent of source code on earth. Man, I love you guys. And I see the pay-per-view later on tonight. God bless.